I want to welcome, also there's some teachers here from Mount Laurel School District too.
Welcome.
I don't know where you are on here. I have a fraternity brother and close friend of mine from college, Chris Bowman. I don't know if he's on here yet, but he and I were talking on Facebook, and they just bought a license, and basically I asked Mr. Callahan, our supervisor, if it was okay if those teachers joined us today to help them, get started. So welcome to those teachers from Mount Laurel that are here.
Wonderful. The more the merrier.
Yeah, appreciate you guys being here. Hopefully you'll turnkey this stuff to other staff members, and it's really a great tool, and we look forward to sharing with you guys all of our resources. So feel free to, in the chat, by the way, as Jess is getting started, feel free to throw any questions you have about Nearpod or anything that you're looking for, and we will address those questions as we go. Oh, did I bring that box in? Go.
Would you like me to record this, Joe?
I'm actually already recording it.
Great. Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so for everybody that is on the line, I'm going to ask that you're doing two different things throughout this presentation. So you're keeping an eye on my screen, which is what you see through Zoom, and then opening up another web browser that's separate, or even using a separate device like a phone or a tablet to go to Nearpod, and you can go to join.nearpod.com, or you can just log into your Nearpod account if you know how to do that, and join the lesson with code YUGJD, which is what you see on my screen right now. So asking that everybody go ahead and join this Nearpod lesson. This is how I'm going to take you through it. You'll be able to participate with all the activities this way and get to see some sample Nearpod lessons. We'll go over some of the basics, and then we'll go over some of the things that are new. For those of you that are more familiar with the platform, I'll turn it over to Joe relatively frequently in order to give some more insight and some more knowledge on Nearpod. He's super experienced. We love him here at Nearpod. So, and you're an NCE, right, Joe, now? And you're
I'm actually a Nearpod pioneer now.
A pioneer. Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so he's got a lot of great insight and experience using it as well. So we'll kind of tag team through this presentation. So we'll wait for everybody to get logged into Nearpod. And if you've never used it before, again, you're just going to www.join.nearpod.com and entering the code you see on my screen, which is YUGJD. What you're going to be doing essentially is joining the lesson like a student would. So I'm leading you through this live lesson today. Oh,
I actually have a teacher account. Do I have to go in a different way? Like, am I not logging in my teacher account?
No, you can. So if you log into your teacher account and it looks like this, yep, the code on the left-hand side is where you'll, the space is.
I was doing it the way.
Yeah, you can do it a number of different ways. So when you're logged into your account, you can join with this little enter code bar, or you can go to join.nearpod.com, or you can actually go to the regular Nearpod homepage, and in the drop-down menu on the right-hand side, there's another way to join the lesson. So multiple ways. For those that are not able to log into your account, no problem. You can join by just going to the join.nearpod.com browser. And yes, you're entering code YUGJD. And it looks like we've got about half the people so far in the Nearpod lesson. So I do want to give us a couple more minutes. Make sure that everybody can join that. If you have just jumped on, welcome. I'm asking that everybody watch this webinar in two ways. So you're keeping an eye on my screen through Zoom. You can resize it if you need to, like click and drag and make it smaller if you're opening up a browser window on the same screen. And then in a separate window, you're going to www.join.nearpod.com, or you're logging into your Nearpod account and entering code YUGJD. My screen will show the teacher view of this presentation, and I'll be pointing some things out about that, and then you're joining the lesson as a student. Correct. Yes, Devin, you are joining the lesson as a student. This is how students can join a live lesson with this code. There's also a number of other ways for them to join it. Like you can send the code through email or through a social media or a web URL link. You can actually create assignments directly through Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, and then they don't have to enter a code. They just click on their assignment and they'll be in. You can use Remind if anybody uses that system. But yeah, you're just going about it the good old fashioned way by going to either join.nearpod.com and entering the code, or going to your logged in homepage. And we'll give it just another couple of minutes. I want to make sure that most everybody is joined into the Nearpod lesson. It's just the best way that you'll be able to see all the interactive features that I'll be talking about today. And whether or not you're a Nearpod Pro or you are brand new, you will hopefully learn something from this and be able to see some new things while you participate as a student. Yeah, the iPad, good question, Jennifer. The iPad should work. It depends on how you're joining the lesson on the iPad. If you've joined it through like the Nearpod app, some things might not work the same. Some of our newer features only work through the Chrome browser. But if you're joining through a web browser itself, then you should be able to see everything like normal. But if you're actually just joining on like the Nearpod app, then you might have a little, I think it's like just the Flipgrid and the student audio recorder feature that you'll not be able to see through the app yet. But that will change soon. So let's just give it another couple of minutes. If you're just jumping on, you are being asked to join the lesson as a student. So you're either going to join.nearpod.com and entering this code, or you're logging into your Nearpod account and entering the code on the left-hand side. And Joe, anything else you want to say before we get started here?
No, just do your best to make sure that you're
How do I do this?
While you're working. I hear Caesar on there. How do you do this?
Yeah, I'm about to leave because I'm getting frustrated already.
Well, you're going to go to you open up a new tab in your
Where I can't move my stuff.
And then you're going to go to join.nearpod.com and you're going to put in this 5
This whole thing right now is controlling my whole screen.
Is it taking up your whole screen? Okay, so yeah. Caesar, what you should do is if you need to press escape, that'll make it so it's not taking up your whole screen, and then just grab the corner of the window and drag it to make it a little bit smaller, and then you should be able to move that window wherever you need to open up another browser tab. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I also want to throw out there again for those of you that just popped in, welcome to those teachers from Mount Laurel School District. Chris Bowman, I see you on here. One of my fraternity brothers and close friends from college is a teacher in Mount Laurel, and we were talking on Facebook, and Mr. Callahan said, feel free to join up and come on this call. So welcome to you and to all of your coworkers. I hope this is as meaningful to all of you as it is to us in the Woodbridge Township School District. So welcome and thanks for joining us.
Were you able to get that figured out with resizing the window? I know it's a little bit tricky.
I can't resize the window on iPad.
Yeah, the iPad's a little tough. Resizing it on the iPad is going to be a little bit tricky. If you have a phone or like a second device, try maybe joining the lesson that way. And if not, and it's too tough, don't worry about it. You can just watch my screen. And you won't necessarily get to participate in the activities, but you can definitely watch and follow along.
See your face?
For those of you that are just joining us, we will get started in just one more minute.
You're going to see it and do it at the same time.
You need a second device.
Well,
you can have a second device if necessary.
Yeah, it keeps kicking out.
Yeah, it might. There is, how many do we have here? We have 87 people in the room. So it might be a good idea to take a look at Jess's screen if you're not able to get logged in at this point, so we can get started for everybody.
Let's just, all right.
Okay. Yeah, so if you can't figure it out, that's totally fine. You can also just watch and follow along. You won't get to see the student side of the Nearpod lesson, but you will get to see the teacher side, which is what I'll be showing. And I can switch back and forth between both views at certain times if needed. All right, so Joe, I think we're good to get started. Are you feeling that way?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And if anybody does have questions as we go along, we'll be manning the chat box, so you can go ahead and put your questions in there. And then when we open it up for questions later, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask them that way as well. It looks like somebody drew on the Zoom whiteboard a little bit, but that's no problem at all. So welcome everybody. My name is Jess. I am a district strategy consultant for Nearpod. I work with districts in the Northeast, and I've worked with Woodbridge extensively, so I'm really excited to be with you all today. We're going to be just going through this presentation. We're going to be talking about Nearpod and how it can help you, especially right now with distance learning. And as soon as we get through this presentation, we'll open it up for Q&A. The first thing I'd ask for everybody to do here is just let me know what your familiarity is with Nearpod. So this is our poll question, and we're asking you to just choose the response that best fits you. Maybe you have led a Nearpod lesson before, maybe you have used it or only joined a lesson as a student, which is what you all have technically been doing today. Maybe you are brand new and never used the platform before. All of these options are great. It's just helpful for me to know where everybody is. Polls can be totally customized. It's a really great way if you're leading a live lesson to gather data in real time. As we go through these lessons, all the data that is collected will be saved in your reports, whether they're a live or a student-paced lesson. So that's something to remember. And it looks like we have a pretty decent range here. So some people have heard of Nearpod but never used it. A couple people have led with a Nearpod lesson. Wonderful. And some people have never even heard of Nearpod. Okay, great. So we are going to start then at the very beginning. I'll show you a video on what the platform is and what it does, and then we'll talk about all the features that you have access to. And then I'll show you a little bit of the Nearpod logged in homepage when you log into that. And finally, we'll open it up for Q&A. Thanks for submitting your response there. So let's go ahead and watch this video. I'm going to play it just on my screen so you can turn your attention there. Overview of everything that the platform does.
Introducing Nearpod, an award-winning edtech tool trusted by millions of teachers and used by tens of thousands of schools and districts. Nearpod is a platform that easily allows teachers to create, download, and teach interactive lessons across all student devices, including Chromebooks, iPads, iPhones, and Android devices, and works on any operating system or browser. Nearpod works seamlessly with Google Classroom and integrates with learning management systems like Canvas and Schoology. Teachers can easily upload their existing PowerPoints, PDFs, Google Slides, and Sways and convert them into interactive Nearpod lessons by including engaging activities like quizzes, polls, draw-ins, open-ended questions, fill-in-the-blanks, and 3D objects. And with Nearpod VR, teachers can take their students on a virtual field trip anywhere in the world. Nearpod VR works on any device, with or without headsets. Imagine taking students to the Taj Mahal, the Pyramids of Giza, the Washington Monument, or the Great Wall of China, all from the comfort of your classroom. Teachers launch a live lesson. Students enter a lesson code, and the lesson is synced to all student devices. Teachers can also launch student-paced lessons, which allow students to complete a lesson on their own time wherever they are. Teachers get real-time feedback on student understanding and can access post-lesson reports to assess individual and class performance. Nearpod also has a library of thousands of ready-to-teach, standards-aligned K-12 lessons across all subjects, from a curated list of distinguished publishers and authors, including Common Sense Education, Time for Kids, Learn Zillion, ReadWorks, Education.com, and expert K-12 teachers from our Nearpod Authors Program. All lessons are editable and customizable to meet the needs of individual teachers and students. Schools and districts have access to special admin features that allow administrators to create and manage a private library of interactive lessons with teachers at their school. Nearpod also has exclusive in-person training and PD to ensure you get the most out of Nearpod's incredible features and benefits. Nearpod is the complete classroom solution that will transform your teaching and engage your students. Learn more at nearpod.com.
Great. So that was an overview of everything that Nearpod does and has to offer. There's a lot, but essentially what it is an engagement platform. So it allows you to reach your students wherever they are. And it's been especially effective right now for distance learning because you can take all the lessons that you either have already and make them interactive for students to submit their responses and collect data automatically. or you can utilize what we already have on the platform. So we have thousands of lessons that you can just download and launch with them as is. Then you can edit those if needed to meet the needs of your students, or create your own from scratch, or upload any PowerPoints or files you already have. The goal is to enable 100% student participation. And so the platform is built to do that in a number of ways, which I'm sure you will see as we go. This is a content map of everything that we have to offer. Our most recent partnership has been with Flocabulary, and that's actually how I got my start in this whole world. I've been with Flocabulary for about 3 years. So if you're interested in Flocabulary at all, we can talk about that a little bit more at the end. Everything else that you see here should be available to you all at this time. We are offering free full access to the platform, so you should have access to most of this content. If there's anything else you see here that you're curious about, let me know. We're also offering additional support right now during these trying times. We have a coronavirus landing page that you can access either through this presentation or just by going to nearpod.com/coronavirus, excuse me. And from there, we have a lot of different resources. We have lessons that are particularly good for distance learning. We have a number of other webinars that we're leading daily and weekly, and ways to connect with other educators to ask questions and support each other. So please feel free to access that page for more resources. Just wanted to leave that there for you all.
Yes, we've also taken the that coronavirus site and we've put it on the Woodbridge Township School District professional development site that we built for elementary and middle school teachers. So under the Nearpod and Flocabulary tab, we got a lot of resources already that we put there for you to kind of get you started. So that's a great place to check out, looking for resources after this meeting. So there's really a lot of stuff there for you guys to get started with. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Write that down. It's already embedded into the Woodbridge Township site that the middle school and elementary school teachers have been building for you guys.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for sharing that. I love when districts can put everything in one place. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so now I've posted this Collaborate board, and this acts like a virtual bulletin board. So as Scott has already demonstrated, you can post your thoughts or images to this board, and it will go live for everybody to see and to read through. So the question here is, during school closures, how might you use Nearpod to reach your students? And so you can start posting your thoughts. This is just to get you a little bit familiar with the Collaborate board, as well as share your thoughts on how to utilize Nearpod for distance learning. As you're reading through your peers' responses, you can give them a like or a little heart if it's something that you agree with or that resonates with you. It allows students to interact with each other that way, which is very cool. You can now use the Collaborate board in both a student-paced and live lesson. And so you can enable Collaborate board for student-paced and make sure that you approve comments before they're posted. You can approve comments before they're posted in the live lesson as well. I decided not to do that just for time's sake. But if you don't necessarily trust what your students are going to post and have go live first, you can have your eyes on it and approve or delete comments as they come in.
As students post comments to a Collaborate board, there's no way for the student to delete them. So if they were to try to be stupid or funny, put something inappropriate up there, there's no way for them to get rid of it. So then you have a copy of it in case it needs to be addressed by the administration in your building.
Absolutely. Yep. So it's all about how you want to control it and what control you want to have over it. Maybe, Joe, if you have a second, you can model what it's like to upload an image on a Collaborate board.
I am not in your presentation because I had to step away for a second.
Okay, no problem.
I can
if you wanted to do that, or maybe there's another brave soul out there that wants to give it a shot, but you would, thanks, Melinda.
Yeah, there's a couple people who actually could do that.
Amazing. So yeah, you just click this little picture icon here. So you can upload words and images or a combination of both. You can even do like GIFs or GIFs, however you say it.
The cool thing with the hearts too is that the Collaborate board will reorder itself based upon the amount of student likes. So then you can address the most widely used comment in your classes. So there's really this is a really cool feature. The awesome part also is you look at that share button. They're also shareable, so you can put them out on your many of these teachers on this list have social media pages. And every day we're putting stuff out there. So that's yet another resource that you can share. And of course, if you want to tag at Nearpod, if you do it on Twitter, to show them some of the things that you're doing.
I love this one with the dog. So great, Patty. Yeah, so I'm seeing engagement. I'm seeing making it fun, field trips and interactive lessons to keep students engaged in learning. Students can feel as if they are leaving the house without really leaving. It's a great way to teach them about something new while being engaging and having fun. Absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for adding that in, Joe. The share button is awesome. You can just share this individual Collaborate board. So if you wanted to share it with parents or other teachers or anybody else, you could do that so that they could see the amazing things students are posting. Okay, awesome. Let's keep moving. And we're going to experience a couple different sample Nearpod lessons. So the first one I've chosen is this static electricity lesson. And I love using this one because it has a lot of our most interactive features packed into it. It already exists on the site. It's geared towards middle school, but it can be edited and adjusted however you need it. It comes with a partnership with FET, which creates those interactive simulations. And so the whole lesson is built around this static electricity simulation. And the entire lesson is a lot longer than what you'll see here. I've just chosen a couple sample slides so you can get a sense of what they're like. So we'll pretend like I'm leading you through this as a teacher and you're the students, and we'll see what these features look like. So the first one is one of those interactive field trips, and I saw a couple people post about that on the Collaborate board. The VR field trips have been our most popular feature recently, which probably makes a lot of sense because if students are stuck inside, what better way to get them feeling like they are exploring the world than through a VR field trip. So the goal here is for students to look in this 360-degree view. They can click and drag. If they have a tablet or a phone, they can actually physically walk around and be even more immersed in it. If they have those fancy goggles, they can use those. And the goal is for them to notice clues of static electricity out in the water with the lightning. So these all come from Google 360 and they can be loaded into any lesson. They're already in a lot of the lessons that exist on the platform, but you can utilize them however you'd like. So take a second to explore that. It's a lot of fun. And then we will keep going. And then the next slide in this lesson will be kind of trying to jog your memory or have you recall prior knowledge about static electricity by completing this activity. So this is a matching pairs, and you are being instructed to match the word with the image. So matching electrons, protons, and neutrons with the charge that they carry. And so on the student view, you're getting to see the actual pairs themselves. Try to pick one and then the other that you think matches with it. You can do them in any order that you want. And the goal is to get the number of matches correct and the number of tries that it took you to get there. So Jacob S. had 3 matches and it took him 3 tries to get there. Amazing. What's cool about matching pairs is you can customize it as much as you want. You can add words and images or one of each. And then you can add up to 12 pairs. And it's giving you a different data point than like a quiz would, for example, because instead of just a numerical score, you're getting to see how many tries it actually took them to get them all correct. So very engaging activity for students. They can access this in live or student-paced mode, and it operates just the same. Anything you want to add here about VR field trips or matching pairs, Joe?
No, VR field trips have been very beneficial for me in a civics class, to be able to take my students to Washington, D.C., to be able to bring a history class to the beaches of Normandy. A lot of these VR field trips are actually already built in Nearpod's lesson library, or you could, build one on your own. There's some really cool features with that. And speaking of building your own presentation from scratch, myself and Kyle Reed and Danielle Adace and I think Jackie Werner are actually, Jamie Gross are going to be working together to put together in about 2 weeks. We're going to do, so you want to build your own lesson with Nearpod, and how you get started. How do you use the Google Slides slide editor? How do you make your lessons shareable with other people in your department? How do you add that library to your school library so other people can use it? So there's some really cool features that we're going to show you to kind of level up your skills with Nearpod. And that's kind of a little tease as to what we're going to be doing in about 2 weeks.
Awesome. Yeah, there are additional webinars we're offering on how to actually create lessons and edit lessons and going into the details of those. But I love that you're all offering that just in-house for each other. I think that's great. Okay, so that was matching pairs. Let's keep going. And now we get to that actual simulation. So we're able to see this interactive simulation here, and this allows students to play around with the positive and negative charges to try to either get the balloon to stick to the sweater or maybe to the wall. You can give them whatever instructions that you want as the teacher here. It's pretty open-ended, but it just allows them to kind of interact with this like they would a lab or a project or an experiment, test their hypotheses, play around with this, change all the settings, etc. So take a second to interact with that. There's many of these interactive simulations that exist in lessons that have been built. You can also just take out the individual slide, which you can do for any lesson, and use it by itself, or add it to a presentation or a lesson that you already have or that you want to create from scratch. A lot of different flexibility there. So take a minute to explore that, and then we'll keep going from there. And then this is a video that goes into additional experiments that students can do with static electricity using things they find at home. We're not going to watch it. I just want to note that you can embed any web URL into a Nearpod lesson. You can also upload any video files that you have directly from your computer or from YouTube. So this one does come from YouTube. When you upload video from YouTube into the Nearpod library, it will take out the commercials and it'll take out the ads and things like that. So if you use YouTube and your students can access that, great. If not, you can use any web URL or any other video file that you have access to. And then we get into our Draw It feature. So the directions here are to draw negative charges on the balloon and then the corresponding charges on the hair. So seeing if students understand those positive and negative charges and decide what will go where. The Draw It feature asks you to utilize the drawing tools at the bottom of your screen. You can also upload images or put in a text box with the little T symbol. And it allows me to see as the teacher, if I'm leading a live lesson, work in progress before they're submitted. So if you're used to Nearpod and have used it in the past, this is something that's relatively new, being able to see work in progress in the Draw It feature. And it looks like we've got some people that are following the instructions and doing a great job. And then also as the teacher is giving me a window into maybe some students I need to check in with again. Maybe they're not quite with me or getting it, but it just gives me a lot of data in real time. If a student's using Draw It in student-paced mode, all of these images and all the drawings that they do will be saved in the data report. So teachers can go back and view that later. And then Draw It defaults to a blank screen, but you can upload any image or PDF or anything to have students draw on top of. So we see Draw It being utilized in a number of different ways. These look great. Take another second. Patty, I like your smiley face here. And then if I am in a live lesson with my students, I can share these out to devices. So maybe I want to share Jess's drawing out, not only because she has an awesome name, but because it looks great. So I can share that all directly to your devices if I were to lead a live lesson. This does not work in student-paced mode since you're not leading it live as the teacher, but just wanted to show that. Great. So thanks for trying that out. Melinda, it looked like you tried to upload an additional image on top of it, which is great. Just playing around with this is all that I ask.
Yes.
Anything you want to add in? Yep.
Yes, can you go down to where it says hide student names at the bottom, please?
Yes.
So if you notice that when Jess clicks on that, all the names get starred out or blocked out. So if I were I wind up projecting these on the screen in my classroom a lot, and I don't want them to see what each other are doing, but it also allows me the ability to call on that student, that quiet student in the back that maybe doesn't raise their hand all that much. So this is that student engagement piece, like when I'm doing a live lesson in the classroom. That becomes, I can share out the information, with my students in class. So there's some really cool things that you can do in regards to engaging with your students and getting those quiet kids in the back of the room to be able to share as well. So just another feature to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. Great addition to that. And you can turn it on and off as much as you want. So you can go back and forth if you would like. Okay, great. Let's keep moving. And we're going to switch now a little bit into a different sample lesson that I've chosen, which is focusing on bacteria and viruses. So this has been a lesson that our team created recently, just to give more science behind what's going on with COVID. And this comes with the partnership with Flocabulary. And instead of utilizing hip hop and rap to teach content, which is what Flocabulary is known for, we're now using a different video style. So this lesson shows the different video style that we're going to be adding on to the other lessons that we have that are music based. So I wanted to give you an idea of what this looks like. It starts by asking this essential question: what are bacteria and viruses? This is a mini lesson, so it's pretty short. And let me just give you a sample of what this looks like.
Today, we're going to talk about bacteria and viruses in just a minute.
Just a minute.
Bacteria are single-cell organisms that are among the oldest forms of life on Earth. They're prokaryotic, so their genetic material is stored in a sort of loop called a nucleoid instead of in a nucleus. Bacteria come in many different shapes, but most resemble rods, spirals, or spheres. Some also have flagella, little tails that help them move. They reproduce asexually through a process called binary fission. Basically, they make a copy of their own genetic info and then split in two. While you're probably familiar with the types of bacteria that can get you sick, there are lots of harmless bacteria too. In fact, bacteria can be found just about anywhere. After all, there are an estimated 5 million on Earth, and many play a critical role in sustaining life on this planet.
Okay, so that gives you an idea of what this video is like. It goes into explaining viruses as well and the difference between the two. And then it follows up with a quiz. So go ahead and try to take this quiz. Pretend like you watched the whole video. We didn't just for time's sake. And as you submit your responses, I'm able to see this come through in a live lesson. If it's a student-paced lesson, then all the data is collected and graded automatically. So take a minute to do that. And if you had quizzes that you were planning on giving to your students in the classroom in the next couple of weeks, a quiz feature in Nearpod can be super helpful to reach them. You can just copy and paste your answers into the quiz feature and, or the questions and answers, I should say. You can completely customize a quiz however you want. And then you just launch a lesson with your students and have them complete the quiz. So if you just wanted them to take the quiz by itself and not have the rest of the lesson, you could do that. If you wanted to use this as like a check for understanding at the end of a lesson, you could do that. There's a number of different ways to utilize the quiz: a pre-test, a post-test, etc. Joe, anything you want to add here?
No.
Cool. If I am leaving a live lesson, I can share out your own personal scores with you to your device. So once you take it, I can share it with you. You can see what you got and have that immediate feedback. You can also turn on the ability to share scores with students in student-paced mode. So that's something in the advanced settings that you can turn on if you're curious and want to do that. And then finally, we have our third sample lesson here, which is a time to climb. So time to climb is an gamified quiz. It's kind of like Kahoot, if you've ever played Kahoot before, but it's a little bit more customizable and engaging, in my opinion. This is an image-based quiz, and there are other quizzes that are word-based and image-based, or a combination of the two. This is something that has already been built by our team and exists on the platform, but you can completely customize the time to climb however you want, add as many questions and answers, just like the quiz, and even convert a quiz to a time to climb. So let's play this so you get a sense of what it's like. And the first thing that you're going to do is choose your character. Now, in a live lesson, I can choose the world that we play in. So I'm going to choose underwater for today because it's the newest one. And go ahead and select your character. While we're waiting here for everybody to get joined in to the game, you can also play this in student-paced mode, or students can. It operates almost exactly the same way. They just choose their character and the game will get started. And they're going against the scores that students who have already played the game have earned. So it'll look the same, it acts the same, even if it's not live. So that's something that's new too. Now everything is available in student-paced mode, which it hadn't been a couple weeks ago. So it's really exciting. The worlds that they can play in will rotate through automatically when they're in student-paced mode. So they'll get to see all the different worlds and levels. All right, waiting for a couple more players to join in, and then we'll get started. So you're choosing the answer that you think is correct, and speed and accuracy both count to earn you as many points as possible. But once you lock in an answer, you can't change it, so be careful. I believe there's 5 questions here, and I think you have like 10 seconds to answer each question. So really putting your monument knowledge to the test here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Sometimes it takes a second to load. Nice job, doing great. Matt's currently our leader. Let's see if anybody can catch him. It's a close race. Almost there. Is back going to be our winner. Let's see who our first, second, and third place winners are. He's definitely close. Nice job, Matt. With a close second and third with Monica and Keith. Nice work, everybody. Okay, so that was a sample of Time to Climb. Hopefully you found that fun. Someone asked a question, can you add a Time to Climb to any presentation? The answer is yes. You can add a Time to Climb to any lesson that you want. So you could take a Time to Climb that already exists on the platform and add it into your own lesson, or you can just create your own Time to Climb completely on your own, using whatever questions you want, whatever responses you want, totally and completely customizable. You can change the time on each question. You can upload as many questions as you feel are needed. Yeah, so it's very exciting. Time to Climb is super fun. We've been seeing, now that Time to Climb is available in student paced mode, we've been seeing students go back to play the game like multiple times to get better scores every time. So that's been really cool. A lot of teachers have been posting about that on their socials, seeing their students go back to try again and again, which is great to see. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the end of our sample lessons here. Joe, anything you want to add before we kind of switch into what's new?
No, nothing at all. I did just look into the slide editor for the Google Slides slide editor, and you can add a time to climb from the slide editor in Google Slides as well. So you can either do it straight in Nearpod and edit a lesson, or take an existing Google Slides presentation and add Nearpod's content to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can add any activity from the add-on in Google Slides, which makes it really easy. So if you have presentations that already are ready to go in Google Slides, and all you want to do is just add on some activities like a Time to Climb, it's really easy to do that. And I'll show you the Google Slides add-on in just a second. You can add a timer to any activity you want, which will be useful for students if you want them to have like a limited amount of time. So that's available. And then we have our Immersive Reader feature, which is also new. I'll show you in the next slide an example of that. But when students click on this book and speaker icon, it takes them into the Microsoft Immersive Reader, which allows them to access text and read it and have it be read out loud to them, etc. It's only available right now on slides that are created in Nearpod, so text slides, open-ended question, and matching pairs and quiz. So 4 different things it's available on now. So don't worry about responding to this answer. This came actually from that bacteria and viruses mini lesson. So don't worry about answering this. I'm just gonna switch into the student view really quickly so I can show you how you would utilize Immersive Reader. So Immersive Reader has been enabled in my advanced settings, which we can show you how to do that at the end. So this is what the student would see. This is what you're seeing on your screen. And once it's enabled, you can actually click on the book and speaker icon and it'll pull up that immersive reader view. So this is what a student could do. So from this view, they can do a number of things. They can do text to speech by playing with the green arrow.
With a partner, explain one piece of information from the video.
Then they can utilize the little alphabet feature here to change the text size and the color and the font if it helps them see the text easier. They can highlight syllables or parts of speech if they want to, if that helps them. And then they can also do a line focus to read one line at a time. And they can turn on the picture dictionary, which will allow them to click on a word and see an image that's associated with that word to help them read it. And then finally, a really useful feature is to pick any language. I've chosen Spanish, and turn on the document toggle, which will automatically translate that text into whatever language that they want. So then they can switch back and forth between the original version and the Spanish version. They can have that be read out loud to them. So if you have students who are English language learners or struggling readers or just need the additional supports when it comes to reading text through a device, then the Immersive Reader is available for them to use. So again, it has to be enabled first, and once it's enabled on your side of things, then when students get to things like the open-ended question or the matching pairs or the quiz, they can click on this icon to help themselves. Anything you want to add in there, Joe? I know that that was a lot of information.
The Immersive Reader, I think Dareth Voorhees is on here. She did a little Google Slides presentation on how to enable the Immersive Reader, which we've also put, we are in the process of putting that slide deck into the Google site for elementary and middle school. And by the way, thank you, Dareth, for doing that. It's a really good resource for all of us to implement, especially for those with struggling readers. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And Chris just put in the chat box, it's a great tool for those that have dyslexia, which is, yeah, that's what it's meant for. In addition to it, just anything students would need to help them read and access text. And that feature, Jessica, will stay on the slides, will just automatically appear on the slides that are created in Nearpod. So if you're actually creating a text slide, it'll be enabled on that. When you create a quiz, it'll be enabled on the quiz. It'll be enabled on the directions for matching pairs and the open-ended question. So those four things are where the Immersive Reader will appear. Eventually it will appear everywhere on the platform, but our team is just adding on features as time goes on. Great questions. Okay, so then we'll talk a little bit about the Flocabulary video integration. So Flocabulary, if you're not familiar with it, it uses hip hop and rap music for the most part to deliver standards aligned, rigorous content. So if you're used to, if you've ever heard of Schoolhouse Rock, I like to compare it to that, but just say it's the new age version and with rap. So it utilizes videos as the primary kind of hook. And then there's other lesson features that are built out around it to support vocabulary acquisition, amongst other things. So the Flocabulary platform as a whole is separate from Nearpod, but there's different ways that they integrate now. You can pull just the videos from the Nearpod library if you have access to them. There are free Flocabulary lessons that have been created and live in the Nearpod platform that have all the Nearpod features built around the video. But if you wanted to use all just the Flocabulary lesson features like vocab cards and a gamified quiz called Vocab Game, or Lyric Lab, where it's like a scaffolded writing platform, that is all through actual Flocabulary. And we are offering free full access to Flocabulary right now, just like we are with Nearpod. So I can post resources about that at the end. It looks like we have some questions coming through. Let me just scan those. Jennifer asked, yeah, so how will they know if it's available to them? You'll have to instruct them that that book and speaker icon is what will open up Immersive Reader once you, and then you kind of have to coach them and teach them on how to use the platform itself. Since it's not technically our product, we don't really have any tutorials that you can utilize. I mean, we have some videos you could show them, but you would have to kind of set expectations and show them and teach them how to utilize Immersive Reader so that when they click on the icon or know when the icon pops up, how to actually use it itself. Great, okay. Doesn't look like there's any questions about vocabulary. If you have additional questions about it later, let me know. Here is Nearpod for Google Slides. So when you're in Google Slides, I believe your district has already approved the add-on, if I am correct, Joe. So
Yes,
when you go to...
It's already been approved, yes. That's
Right. So all you would have to do is when you're in Google Slides, you would click on add-ons in the top toolbar, and then you would scroll down to where it says Nearpod, and you say open Nearpod. Really straightforward. After you open up the Nearpod add-on, this sidebar pops up. And from there, you can add all the Nearpod activities and content features directly in a Google slide. So you can take presentations you already have and add on a time to climb or a quiz. You can build your own lesson while adding in the Nearpod activities. You can do a number of different things. And then you just say save and go to Nearpod at the bottom, and it'll send it directly to your Nearpod library, and you launch it like normal. So if you are a Google Slides user, if you like it, I would definitely recommend using it. If you want to collaborate on lessons with other teachers, it's a great tool. And yeah, if you already have things saved in Google Slides itself, it just makes it a lot easier to add on those interactive features and then save them to your library. All right. And then speaking of collaborating and sharing lessons with other teachers, you can now do that as well. When you hover over the upper hand corner of a lesson, you'll get a number of options when you click on the 3 dots, and it'll bring you to a place where you can share the lesson with fellow teachers. So if you really love a lesson and you think somebody else might really love it, you can copy the link and they can get a view-only version of it or an editable version of that lesson. So that's how you share lessons with fellow colleagues or fellow teachers, is by clicking on those 3 dots and selecting share with teachers. This is a video about one of our newest features, which is Flipgrid. And because I think we have a little bit more time today, so I think it might be beneficial to view this. Joe, are you okay with watching this video? And
where are we? Yeah, we can. Go ahead. Sure.
It's short. It's not too long. But for those of you that use Flipgrid or are interested in using Flipgrid, this is a really new, awesome integration. So I want to show you what this looks like.
Nearpod is making it easier than ever to add Flipgrid within your lessons. Let's say you're creating a lesson on the vocabulary word emulate, and you want your students to use emulate in a sentence by responding with a video. Simply click on Add Slide, Add Activity, and you can enter in Flipgrid as an activity. When you click to add Flipgrid, you'll be prompted to enter in the Flipgrid teacher URL and the student URL. We've provided quick instructions on how to find these URLs within Flipgrid. So I have Flipgrid open in a second browser. From there, when I'm in my grid, I'm going to click on my topic of choice, and I'll copy the URL from the browser and paste that in as my teacher URL. And then I'll click on Share, copy the URL given, and enter that in for my student URL. And then I'm ready to go. I'm going to save my lesson. And once the lesson is saved, I can launch it out as a live or student-paced lesson. Let's say you launch it as a live lesson. Your students can join the lesson by entering in the code. When you land on the Flipgrid activity, as a teacher, you will see your teacher dashboard, and the student responses will come in for you to view and moderate in real time. Let's switch to the student view to see what your students will see. Your students will be prompted to enter the grid password if applicable, and then they will see the prompt and can respond to the prompt in real time. Please keep in mind that this new feature is only available in the web browser. Thank you for watching. If you have,
all right. Great. So that was the Flipgrid integration, which a lot of teachers have been really loving. So if you have a Flipgrid account and you want to integrate it with Nearpod, you can do that too. And then our other most recent update for those of you that have been using Nearpod, those of you are new, either way, is you can also enable the student audio recorder on an open-ended question. So instead of students just typing in their text to answer a question, they can also record their own voice and submit those as well. And all of that is saved in your reports just like it would be normally. Okay, that kind of wraps up all the new features. So let's just turn it over into some Q&A. I know that we wanted, Joe, someone asked about launching lessons. So as you're and asking any questions on this Collaborate board, I'll flip over into the Nearpod logged in homepage. And so when you're logged into your account, I'll show you what that looks like. And it looks like this. So this is where you can search the Nearpod lesson library once you're logged in. You can start saving lessons to your library. You can save them in bundles and folders, or just saves like this individually. And you can launch the lessons from there. And you can also look at your reports from here as well. Once you've saved lessons to your library, then you can hover over any lesson and either launch it the live way, which is what we did today. So I launched the live lesson, I generated a code, you joined the lesson with the code, and we were off and running, and I was leading you through that live lesson. You can also launch student-paced lessons, and it works almost the exact same way. So if I wanted to launch this student-paced lesson, I would click on that, and it will generate the code yet again. It'll allow me to set the number of days I want the students to access it for. And then I can share this code in all these different formats. So I can email it to students if I want. I can send a social media or a web URL link to it. I can embed it in an LMS. And then the easiest way, I would say, if you utilize Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, you can actually click on these icons and it'll just take you through the process of creating a Google Classroom assignment, just like you would normally. Then students access the assignment and then it takes them directly into the lesson and they don't even need to enter the code. So it works just like a live lesson would, but they're accessing it on their own and they can complete that lesson on their own time at their own pace. So student-paced lessons have been extremely popular for distance learning because you can just make sure that they have the code or the assignment, access the lesson, complete everything, and then all the data is saved in the reports section of the logged in homepage. When you go to the Nearpod lesson library and you search for content, there are, like we said before, thousands of lessons here. So I would recommend using the subject or the grade filters. You can check multiple boxes or just one at a time. It helps you kind of narrow down the subjects and the areas that you want. You can also search by keyword. And I would recommend doing multiple searches to try to find different lessons because there's so much on there. There's different ways to find it. So that's the Nearpod lesson library. And then if you go back, this house icon will always take you home to your personal library. So you have to save lessons to your library first before you edit them or launch them. And it sounds like Joe's gonna have a whole nother webinar on actually editing or curating your own Nearpod content. That would take another whole session to go into. It is pretty straightforward. I mean, you can start playing around with it on your own, which is what I suggest doing. You can click all the buttons. You're not going to break anything. So play around with it. And then you can create your own lesson either through Nearpod or with a lesson in Google Slides, which we showed before.
For those teachers in the Woodbridge Township School District on the call here, you want to make sure that you're logged into your account with your woodbridge.k12 account, not your Google account. Because that's where because if you log into an account and you see prices where you have to pay for things, then you're in the wrong account. We have a subscription which allows you to have full access to take any of Nearpod's lessons off of the shelf, if you will, and put them in your own library, like taking out a library book. And once you put those in your library, you then have the ability to edit, change, alter, add to, and switch materials in those lessons to your liking. So Jess, can I snag the host duties back from you for a second, just to show that for a minute? So
sure.
I'm just going to share my screen for a moment. So when I'm in my library, these are all lessons that I have put in my library. And whenever you go to edit a lesson, it asks you, do you want to duplicate the lesson? And you always want to do that. You want to keep the first one as an original copy, and then you can have an edited copy. So I'm just going to go to this one in the executive branch here that says Vitale for the president, because this one I edited and changed it. Okay. Oop, I don't want to do that. Sorry. We're just going to go to preview instead. So what I did was I added a couple of activities into this lesson. It's built by iCivics, which is a great platform for civics teachers in the 7th grade. But they've Nearpodized all of their lessons. And I added a few things into it, and I took some stuff out because I found a video from Ellen DeGeneres of her acting as president and putting some laws in place. And then on the next slide, I asked students, well, can she actually do and implement the laws that she put in place? So I actually asked them to watch the video and then comment on it. And that was like my warm-up activity. And this again was a student-paced lesson. I took this original lesson from Nearpod and then I essentially made it my own. And you have the ability to do the exact same thing. If you teach it, there's something on it there. And a lot of teachers are using this in various ways, making it shareable and making it interactive. So there's a lot of cool stuff here. You see with this one, this Nation Builder in Chief, this was another lesson from iCivics, and I added a vocabulary video on it about the presidency. So you can take all these different things and kind of smash them together. So there's some really cool stuff that you can do. And these are all things that we're going to go over in a few weeks, but this is the kind of stuff that you want to play around with. The main thing is when you go into your Nearpod lesson library, this is all of the lessons that you have at your disposal. You could search any topic, and I guarantee you're going to find something. I saw Mr. Tomaszowski is on my screen here. So if I were to put in music, I don't even know what's going to come up. Introduction to Music 6 to 12. It might have stuff about composers, tempo. I mean, this is all this stuff down to the elementary grades. You can launch these as student-paced lessons and let students kind of go on their own and explore the lesson that you put together for them. So there's a bunch of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff here. It can seem overwhelming, but please feel free to use myself or Kyle Reed or any other people that are using Nearpod. Jamie Wanko at Avondale Middle School. There's a number of teachers that are using Nearpod on a regular basis that could help you through this process.
Amazing. Thanks for adding all that. That was great information. Okay, so let me share my screen again really quickly.
Hold on, I gotta make you the host again.
Yeah, go for it.
Alrighty. Got it.
Okay, and so that kind of brings me to the end of the presentation. It looks like maybe there's some questions here. Where can you find the audio recorder? Is it one of the activities? It is on the open-ended question. The only place where the student audio recorder lives right now is the open-ended question. So when you create an open-ended question, you can turn that setting on and then your students will see it. Eventually it'll be added to a lot more features in the platform, but we've started with that one. It's really new. It's
There's the birdseed back in the day.
Love it. Can you mention again how to put this in Google Classroom or Google Slides? Yeah, so when you're in Nearpod, just in your logged in account, that there's going to be that button that says create a lesson in Google Slides. When you open that up, it'll just take you directly to Google Slides. And you can create the presentation there. Remember that you have to enable the add-on. We have an entire webinar on using Google with Nearpod. We also have additional resources, so I'll make sure to send those out so you can learn more about the Google and Nearpod integration. And then when you hover over a lesson and you try to share it through student pace mode, that's how you create the Google Classroom assignment. So you go to share through student pace mode, and then you can create the assignment that way. This is taking a minute to open, but here's Google Slides, and you're just opening up this Google Slides add-on. Sometimes it takes a minute to load. You should already have it where it says Nearpod, and then open Nearpod. If you need to install it once, that might need that.
Yeah,
happen,
I think they're going to have to install it the first time in the Woodbridge Township School District.
Okay.
I know that that's for the Mount Laurel teachers. I don't know if it's been pushed out for them.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you say get add-on. You search for Nearpod. You install it one time, and then this bar opens up.
Yeah. The great part about the sharing to Google Classroom that somebody asked about. Just very quickly, and I'm grabbing host again from you there, Jess.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go for it.
So, all right, I'm gonna go back to my desktop. So when I'm in Nearpod and I go to like launch a student-paced lesson, which I'm gonna do very quickly, I'm just gonna choose any lesson that's here. I'm gonna go with this one on extreme weather. I do live student pace. So if I have 2 blocks, like a block 1 and a block 3, which I do, I'm going to post this lesson with 2 separate codes. So then my block 1 students do the block 1 lesson and the block 3 students do the block 3 lesson. The lessons are the same, but then this way I don't have 60 kids in the reports. So all I do is I hit Google Classroom. It opens up a second window. I choose which class I want this to go to. So let's say I want it to go to block 1. I can create an assignment, and then I hit go, and it literally puts it in as a draft, and then I can start posting information about what I want them to do. Okay, I then would go back and do that exact same process for my block 3. So there's a separate code. All students do is click on this. It brings them right to the presentation, to the main screen where they put their name in, and then they're basically good to go right from there. It is an incredibly seamlessly easy process for students to be able to do that. And then of course at the end, when they're done, I can go to the reports and I can look up how they did in this lesson. So I can bring up, this block of students, and I can see how they did on the lessons. I can go to an individual person. I could see, this student might have been struggling. You'll also see, I see their name more than once, which means they've logged out and logged back in. Or maybe they had a technical issue. So the reports also gives you an option to get classwork grades for these assignments as well. So there's some additional features here about how to access the reports that you'll also want to play around with. There's also some really fun, if you're looking for just to do something to get you started with Nearpod, there's very basic welcome to school kind of activities. You might even want to throw one of those in there, see what it looks like, and just do a fun, non-graded, let students do it and see how they navigate through it activity.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I was reading the questions box, when an assignment is created through Google Classroom, like Joe just modeled, they don't need the code. They just click on the assignment, they go straight in. And otherwise they would need the code, or they would need the web URL, the link itself to access the lesson. And so parents, this is from Alyssa's question, parents don't need to have logins. They just help their students access the lesson with that code or with the link, however it's being sent to them, or through the Google Classroom assignments. Okay, so what else? Can you create your own student-paced lessons? Absolutely. You create them however you want. You can utilize files and PowerPoints or things you already have. You can upload them into the Nearpod platform. You can use Google Slides like we just showed. Any lesson that is created, you can launch both as live and student-paced, and you can create both from your scratch on your own. Can you see fill in the blank responses? This is a great question, Marcy. Fill in the blank is the only feature on the platform where data is actually not collected. So you cannot see student responses for fill in the blanks in either live or student paced. So it's meant to be more as a practice for them and a fun activity, but it is actually not a way that you can see data for them. So just keep that in mind. It'll work in both student paced and live mode, but you can't see their responses. It's the only feature that works that way. How do you use this for math? I would suggest going to the Nearpod lesson library and just searching math, filter math, and then whatever grade you teach, and start there. There can be some lessons that you might find are really useful that are already created. And then otherwise, you can just create your own presentations for whatever materials and resources you already use. You might have to get a little creative, but I would suggest starting by seeing the lessons that already exist for whatever grade you teach in math. Can you share lessons with other teachers in Nearpod? Yes, you can. When you go to Nearpod and you've saved lessons and you hover over those dots in the upper right-hand corner on a lesson, this is where you can share out the link with teachers. So if I wanted to share this lesson, I hover over it, I click on the 3 dots and I select share with teachers, and it allowed me to share the different links with them. These are all very good questions, kind of speeding through them here. You will receive a copy of this recording to refer back to Kelly, absolutely. Can you scan book pages into a Google slide to read using the Immersive Reader? Good question. You would need to actually write or type the text into a Nearpod's text slide in order for them to use Immersive Reader. Right now, Immersive Reader can't be utilized if you're uploading like a PDF file or an image. Hopefully that will change in the future as well, but you'd actually have to type it out and write it in the Nearpod text slide, which you can create in Google Slides. You can create a text slide in Google Slides. But yeah, you can't just upload an image, like a scan, and have Immersive Reader work on top of There is no way to import students from Google Classroom because students don't actually have accounts for Nearpod. They're just joining lessons, and then all their data is being collected and just saved in your account. There are no student accounts in Nearpod. Is there a way to merge accounts? Yes, Monica, please contact our support team. Just support@nearpod.com, and they can merge accounts that you have. If you've saved lessons or created lessons in 2 different accounts, they can merge them together. Yes, Janice, you will have access to this presentation. Okay, I think I sped through all of those really quickly. Let me check the chat box here. Anything else that is coming up? It looks like Joe's already gotten to some of these. Someone suggested having them put in their last name first so that your reports are in alphabetical order. Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does. I think doesn't it do them by time when they do them, or does it do it?
Yeah, I think it's when they joined the lesson. I think.
Yeah.
It's,
So
yeah.
I don't think it matters either way. It does help in the end if you like export the reports, but look, I've worked with a bunch of different companies with like professional development, putting things together, and this group at Nearpod and Vocabulary are by far the most attentive. They get back to people, they share resources, they have a great network on social media. So if you're on Twitter or Facebook, you can follow Vocabulary and Nearpod on those platforms. Please, please, please do that. There's a lot of great stuff that's out there. They have excellent resource pages. I threw the link to one of them in here. Vocabulary and Nearpod, I think at 1:15 every day or 1 o'clock, do like a daily Facebook quick little 15-minute, here's something you can do kind of thing.
Yep.
So there is a ton of resources out there. It's a fantastic program and one that is really gonna, it can't be overused. It's just there's something that you can do with it every day. I don't use it every day because I have middle school kids and I like to vary my activities. But there's some really great, powerful resources at your fingertips.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then speaking of resources, this presentation will also have a link to a lot of other resources on the platform. And so please feel free to utilize this. You can share this presentation with other people once you get it. Any resources you would need. This is like a self-guided resources doc. It's taking a minute to load. But when it comes through, it has links to all sorts of like how-to videos and step-by-step instructions on all the different things on the site. This is what Joe was talking about with all of our amazing online communities. And this is the support email if you need it. There's also just been like a lot of educators rallying around each other and just providing support and ideas on how to use this with distance learning. So if you have specific content questions or how to use Nearpod for this, or I want to do this with a student and have this kind of activity, what would you suggest? What feature would you use, etc. Go on there and see what other educators have to say. A lot of great stuff. So that kind of brings me to the end of the presentation. I can stay on the line for a couple more minutes if there are any more last minute questions. But I really appreciate you all being here today. I would encourage you to just continue to play around with it and get used to the platform. Go to all the resources that we've provided. Watch additional webinars. We have webinar recordings from our teacher resources page. So if you don't want to join a live webinar, you can just watch the videos on your own. It's totally up to you, whatever is best for you and your students.